Episode 1. The Camaro arrives. Imagine you're standing on a Friday night cruise strip. Neon lights bounce off chrome bumpers. The air smells like gasoline and tire smoke. And suddenly, you hear that unmistakable, throaty V8 growl. A 1967 Camaro rolls past, nose low, tail slightly up, and for a second, it feels like you've time-traveled straight back to the late 60s. Hey, everyone! Welcome to Chrome and Gasoline. I'm your host, Alex, and in this mini-series, we're diving deep into one of the most beloved American pony cars of all time, the first-generation Chevrolet Camaro, built from 1967 through 1969. Over the next few episodes, we'll explore where it came from, how it was built, what made it a racing legend, and why it's still such a hot ticket among collectors today. To really understand the Camaro, you have to go back to the early 1960s. Ford had just lit the world on fire with the Mustang. It wasn't just a new car, it was a whole new category, the pony car. Sporty, stylish, relatively affordable, and aimed straight at young buyers who wanted something cooler than their parents' sedans. The Mustang was a massive hit, and suddenly every other automaker was playing catch-up. Inside General Motors, that success hurt. Chevrolet had strong performance cars, but nothing that directly answered the Mustang's mix of style, price, and image. The pressure was on. GM needed a car that was compact, good-looking, flexible enough for everything from daily commuting to serious performance. And above all, it had to feel fresh. This wouldn't be just another model, it would be a statement. That statement became the Camaro. Chevrolet engineers and designers went to work on a new rear-wheel drive car that shared its roots with the compact Chevy 2, but looked and felt totally different. From the start, the Camaro was designed to be flexible. Chevy wanted you to be able to buy a simple six-cylinder grocery getter, a sporty V8 cruiser, or a serious high-performance machine, all under the same nameplate. The Camaro made its official debut for the 1967 model year. The name itself was mysterious. Chevrolet jokingly claimed Camaro was a French slang term for friend or companion, and they leaned into that idea. This car was meant to be your buddy, your partner in crime on Saturday nights and Sunday backroads. Whether that story was strictly accurate or not, the name felt right. It was new, it was different, and it sounded fast. Visually, the first Camaros were spot on. Long hood, short rear deck, wide stance, and a low aggressive front end that made the car look like it was ready to pounce. Buyers could choose between a coupe or a convertible, and right away, the options list was huge. That was intentional. Chevrolet knew that part of the Mustang's magic was the ability to build the car your way, and they were determined to offer at least that much choice, if not more. Public reaction came quickly. The Camaro may have been late to the pony car party, but it arrived dressed to impress. Chevrolet backed the launch with heavy marketing, motorsport involvement, and dealer enthusiasm. Within a short time, the new car wasn't just an answer to the Mustang. It was a legitimate rival, drawing in buyers who liked its more muscular, slightly more mature attitude. By the end of that first year, it was clear that the Camaro was not a one-off experiment. It had carved its own identity. Part street fighter, part stylish cruiser, and a platform that could grow in many directions. It would soon become a serious player in racing, a star of car culture, and an icon that enthusiasts still chase today. In our next episode of Chrome and Gasoline, I'll walk you through the styling details, the different trim levels, and the engine options that made the 1967 to 1969 Camaro so flexible. From simple sixes to snarling at big blocks, we'll break down what made these cars tick and why so many people fell in love with them. Stay tuned. Episode 2. Design, Trim Levels, and Engines. You're listening to Chrome and Gasoline, and I'm Alex. In the last episode, we talked about how the Camaro came to be Chevy's answer to the Mustang today. We're going to pop the hood on what made the first-generation Camaro so appealing, its design, its many trim levels, and the wide range of engines you could order. Let's start with the way it looks, because honestly, that's what grabs you first. The first-gen Camaro has that classic pony car formula, a long hood, short rear deck, and a roofline that flows smoothly into the trunk. The front end is low and slightly pointed, giving the impression that the car is always leaning forward, ready to charge. Strong character lines run down the sides, and the rear quarters flare just enough to make the car look planted without being cartoonish. Inside, the Camaro's cabin was driver-focused for its time. The dashboard wraps slightly toward the driver, and the gauges are simple and easy to read. You could upgrade to a sport-style gauge package, center console, and even a tachometer to complete the performance feel. The seats weren't exotic racing buckets, but they held you reasonably well while still being comfortable enough for everyday use. Where the Camaro really started to show its personality was in its trim levels and option packages. At the base, you had a simple car that could be ordered with a straight 6 engine, perfect for people who mainly wanted the looks without the fuel bill or insurance cost of a V8. Then came the RS, or Rally Sport, which was all about appearance. The RS package added things like hidden headlights, revised taillights, and extra trim. It gave the car a slightly more upscale, mysterious look, especially when the headlights were tucked away behind that blacked-out grille. Step up to the SS, or Super Sport, and now you were talking serious performance. The SS package brought in V8 power, stronger suspension components, and visual cues like stripes, badges, and sometimes a special hood. An SS Camaro looked like it meant business, even when it was parked at the curb. Then there was the legendary Z/28. Originally designed with racing in mind, the Z/28 package focused on balance and handling more than brute straight-line power. It came with a high-winding small-block V8, special suspension tuning, and usually bold stripes that ran the length of the car. The Z28 turned the Camaro into a road course weapon, particularly in the Trans Am series, and it quickly gained a cult following among enthusiasts who loved the feel of a car that begged to be driven hard on twisty roads. Under the hood, the range of engines was impressive. Buyers could choose everything from economical 6-cylinder engines to small-block V8 ES that offered a great mix of power and drivability, all the way up to big-block V8 S that delivered serious torque and a menacing exhaust note. Transmission choices included 3- and 4-speed manuals and automatic gearboxes, so you could tailor the driving experience to your taste. Whether you wanted a relaxed cruiser or a tire-shredding street machine, there was a Camaro configuration for you. Over the 1967, 1968, and 1969 model years, the design of the Camaro evolved subtly. The basic shape stayed the same, but details like the grille, taillights, and trim were updated to keep the car looking fresh. By 1969, the Camaro had a slightly more aggressive, chiseled look, with sharper lines and a bolder stance that many fans still consider the peak of first-gen styling. Put it all together, and you can see why the first-generation Camaro was so successful. It wasn't just one car. It was a whole menu of possibilities. You could spec it mild, wild, or anywhere in between, and it always looked good doing its job. In the next episode of Chrome and Gasoline, we'll take the Camaro off the showroom floor and onto the racetrack. We'll talk about its role in Trans Am racing, the legend of the Z28 on the circuit, and how this car became a staple of American car culture. Don't miss it. Episode 3, Racing Heritage and Cultural Impact. Welcome back to Chrome and Gasoline. I'm Alex, and this is our third episode on the 1967 to 1969 Chevrolet Camaro. We've talked about how the car was born and what made it look and feel so special. Now it's time to see what happened when the Camaro left the dealership and headed for the track, and how it became a full-blown cultural icon. In the late 60s, racing wasn't just about trophies, it was marketing. If your car won on Sunday, you could bet people would be talking about it on Monday. Chevrolet knew this, and the Camaro was developed with competition in mind. One of the most important battlegrounds was the Trans-American Sedan Championship, better known as Trans Am. It was a road racing series for production-based cars, and it quickly became the perfect showcase for the new breed of pony cars. To compete effectively, Chevy needed a version of the Camaro that handled well, revved high, and fit the rules. That's where the Z/28 really earned its stripes. With its specially tuned small block V8 and upgraded suspension, the Z/28 was built to attack twisty circuits rather than just blast down a straight drag strip. In the hands of skilled drivers and race teams, the Z28 Camaro showed that it could go toe-to-toe with the best from Ford and other brands. Its success on the track gave the Camaro instant credibility among enthusiasts. But not every Camaro story was written on a closed course. Plenty of these cars found their way into grassroots drag racing and street performance scenes. Big block SS models with stout V8s became favorites for straight-line acceleration, lighting up rear tires at stoplights and local drag strips across the country. Special order combinations, often referred to as COPO cars, pushed the performance envelope even further with engines and equipment that weren't part of the regular catalog, turning some Camaros into serious high-horsepower machines. While the racing world helped define the Camaro's performance image, pop culture did just as much to cement its legend. The first-gen Camaro fit perfectly into the late 60s and early 70s vibe. It was the kind of car you'd see in drive-in parking lots, cruising down main streets, and showing up as the hero's ride in car-focused movies and TV shows. Its shape, its sound, and even its stripes became visual shorthand for American muscle. Car clubs formed around these cars, and they became a common sight at local meets and national gatherings alike. Owners individualized their Camaros with aftermarket wheels, louder exhausts, wild paint jobs, and custom interiors. Each car was a reflection of its driver's personality, and that personal connection helped the Camaro become more than just transportation. It turned into a lifestyle. Even as new generations of the Camaro came and went, the first generation held on to a special place in the hearts of fans. It represented the birth of a nameplate and a time when automakers pushed hard to build cars that stirred emotions. When people think of the Camaro today, many still picture those 1967 through 1969 models as the purest expression of the idea. In our final episode of this mini-series, we'll fast forward to the present. We'll talk about why the first-gen Camaro is still so desirable, what the collector world looks like in broad strokes, and what you should keep in mind if you're dreaming about owning one yourself. Stick around for the conclusion of our look at this classic Chevy icon right here on Chrome and Gasoline. Over the 1967, 1968, and 1969 model years, the design of the Camaro evolved subtly. The basic shape stayed the same, but details like the grille, taillights, and trim were updated to keep the car looking fresh. By 1969, the Camaro had a slightly more aggressive, chiseled look, with sharper lines and a bolder stance that many fans still consider the peak of first-gen styling. Put it all together, and you can see why the first-generation Camaro was so successful. It wasn't just one car. It was a whole menu of possibilities. You could spec it mild, wild, or anywhere in between, and it always looked good doing its job. In the next episode of Chrome and Gasoline, we'll take the Camaro off the showroom floor and onto the racetrack. We'll talk about its role in Trans Am racing, the legend of the Z28 on the circuit, and how this car became a staple of American car culture. Don't miss it. Episode 4. Legacy, Collecting, and Buying Tips. Today, this is Chrome and Gasoline, and I'm Alex. We've reached the final episode of our mini-series on the 1967 to 1969 Chevrolet Camaro. So far, we've explored how it was born, what made it look and perform the way it did, and how it carved out a name for itself on the track and in popular culture. Now, let's bring the story into the present and talk about why these cars still matter and what to think about if you're considering adding one to your garage. More than 50 years after the first Camaro rolled out, the original generation still turns heads. Part of that is nostalgia. For some people, the first-gen Camaro is the car they grew up seeing in the neighborhood, the car their parents or friends drove, or the one that hung as a poster on their bedroom wall. For younger enthusiasts, it represents a golden era they never got to experience, a time when big engines, bold colors, and loud exhausts were part of everyday life. There's also the design factor. The first-gen Camaro really nailed the proportions, and that never goes out of style. Whether it's a clean, mostly stock car in a factory color or a tastefully modified Restomod with modern wheels and updated suspension, the shape just works. You can spot one from blocks away, and even people who aren't car experts often recognize it as something special. In the collector world, not all first-gen Camaros are equal, and that's okay. High-profile models like genuine Z28s, SS cars with certain engine combinations, and rare special-order performance versions tend to attract the most attention. They're cherished for their history, performance, and uniqueness. But the great thing about the Camaro is that there are also more common examples that still deliver the look and feel without requiring a museum-level budget. A well-sorted base, VA8 car, or even a nicely built six-cylinder with good maintenance can be an incredibly fun way to enjoy the legend. If you're thinking about buying one, there are a few general things to keep in mind. First, rust and structural condition matter more than shiny paint or loud exhausts. These cars are old, and many have lived hard lives. A solid body and frame will save you a lot of headaches compared with a car that looks good in photos but hides serious issues underneath. Second, think about how you want to use it. Do you want an original style car with factory correct parts, or are you drawn to the idea of a Restomod with modern brakes, suspension, and air conditioning? Being honest about your goals will help you choose the right car from the start. Parts availability is another big plus for the first-gen Camaro. Because they're so popular, the aftermarket support is strong. You can find replacement panels, interior pieces, mechanical parts, and performance upgrades relatively easily compared with more obscure classics. That doesn't make a restoration cheap or effortless, but it does mean you're not starting from scratch. Finally, remember that while values and trends can be interesting to follow, the real reward of owning a classic Camaro is the experience. It's the feel of the steering wheel in your hands, the sound of the engine as you roll onto the highway, the thumbs up from people on the sidewalk, and the shared stories at car meets. These cars connect people across generations and remind us why we fell in love with automobiles in the first place. As we wrap up this series, think back to that first moment we imagined. The rumble of a V8, the glint of chrome under the streetlights, the presence of a car that somehow feels alive. The 1967 to 1969 Chevrolet Camaro isn't just a machine. It's a symbol of freedom, style, and mechanical passion that refuses to fade. Thanks for listening to Chrome and Gasoline. I'm Alex, and it's been a joy taking this ride through Camaro history with you. If you enjoyed this series, be sure to follow the show, leave a review, and share it with another car enthusiast. Until next time, keep the revs up and the chrome shining.